Alright, dears, yoga is nature. You may think that yoga is a cultural phenomenon. You may think that it's a spiritual tradition. You may think that it's a religion. There's aspects of religion that are yoga practices. And it is all of those things and a lot more things. But what actually is going on in the the process of yoga? And it's actually a natural process that in the reality which we live, nature is a device for consciousness perceiving itself in a higher definition, in a higher grade, in a higher awareness. It's an evolution of consciousness, you can say. And you might think, well, how is nature like that? And we can see like that in many ways, simply just the growing complexity of nature, the variety of nature. When we look at the existence, the universe, when we look at life on the planet, there is more and more and more and more and more, and it seems always striving against all odds, against all physics, against all unlikeliness to endure and sustain and refine into more subtle or more highly realized concepts and forms. Now, that's beautiful and that's amazing and can be inspiring, but there's also something which is more, it's in our experience. And actually, I often say this to all the students that I have, that everyone is practicing yoga or is in the process of yoga. And this is often, well, what I'm going to describe, it's the 8 steps of yoga. It's the Ashtanga, the 8 limbs. And that's often thought when we teach that is like, this is the steps that I go through, this is the order. And you train yourself in those things. No, it's true, we do train ourselves in those things. That's bringing attention to the process, bringing consciousness to nature, and again, increasing this development, increasing this refining process. It's just like breathing. You breathe without thinking about it, without being conscious of it. It does a great job. But isn't it when we bring attention to our breath, when we start to cultivate awareness and depth and rhythm in the techniques that we have, that the breath supports us in many more ways and in much more enriching ways and in much more useful ways that helps us to live our lives, to deal with what we deal with, and to ascend beyond the limitations. So in our lives, nature is kind of nudging or pushing us. When I say nature now, I mean our internal mechanisms, our sense response, our natural urges and tendencies and desires. And there's the view that, of course, nature is what's binding us, what's the prison, the illusion, the Maya of the universe. But classic yoga philosophy actually says that it is because of this illusion that you can realize freedom. And we need these experiences. We start with our experience in the world, this world that we live in, and how do we guide ourselves through this world? We have to look at first, everything is standing or rising up on the shoulders of what came before. We're born, we are supported by the history of humanity, of society, and our parents. All of this development and all of this refining and all of this support nourishes us until that we can support our own self and also continue this tendency to support the others. And as we grow into that, there is social network, there is community. How does community function? We need some level of trust. We need some level of truth. We need to balance in this community so that we can all live to our needs and not stepping on the toes of the others and taking too much from the others. So we all learn very quickly in our lives that we can't wantonly go about destroying or taking or hurting others, because there will be some result back to us, very obviously. Oftentimes when we're young, when we're kids, when our hormones are more raging, the reaction can be fast and strong, right? Maybe it's a sympathetic reaction when somebody we hurt has expressions of that pain and suffering. We may feel regret. Sometimes we're numb to sympathy, but maybe we hurt someone and then they attack us back, get revenge. So in some ways we learn, everybody learns this to some degree, that I can't wantonly go about hurting, or I will also be hurt by this. And these ways of living in the world get us to some base level of peace, some base level of happiness, security, right? Then you have a platform in which to develop something. If you lie, if you hurt, if you take more than you need, if you abuse energies, your own or others, this is what causes too much chaos. And to have the stable platform in which to look at yourself, to work with yourself, to realize your deeper dreams and aspirations, we need that stability. So when you have goals like that, you may need to look at other things of your life that don't seem related. How can I stabilize my situation so that I can have the peace of mind to focus into the goals that I have? Now, we have the platform. Which ways do we develop ourselves? Well, we can look at the obvious first and say, my body is the kind of root of my experience. There's a big influence on how my body condition is to everything else that I do and experience. So first is we take care of the body. We exercise, we eat well, we try to at least sustain ourselves in some way, shape or form. Then we get to some health and contentment. We feel well in ourselves. From this wellness, there's energy, and with this energy, you have some motivation, some enthusiasm. You want to do something. You want to learn something. You want to accomplish something. You pick up some discipline or practice or project that you're developing. From this, we realize that we need to also learn. We need knowledge to achieve the dreams that we have. So we study, we learn, maybe from teachers, maybe from sources of others in the past. As we keep learning, we realize there's an infinity of knowledge in this existence, and we'll come to a sense of awe, to a sense of surrender maybe, to a sense of admiration and splendor, recognizing the splendor of the unfathomable complexity of the universe, and also that even our own potential is infinite. It's only a question of time, devotion, effort, and if you keep putting more time, more effort, more devotion, the potential rises. So there's this recognition of something which is beyond what is experienced in this simple sense of ego, body, desires, and so on, like sense desires. So these first two things which I've talked about is basically being at peace with the world around you, and a big part of that is being at peace with other human beings, because we are societal, we are community oriented, we are sympathetic beings, because we need each other, and we're all also karmically intertwined, and we're all working through this karma to increase our perceptions and to heal and to release wrong perception. And the second one was some kind of self-development, because I have the security, the platform the space and support to be able to have the time, the energy, and the motivation to develop myself. So with these two things, then, it would be very natural, and this is a natural process. We could say, like, if I feel peaceful, I will have some interest to develop myself. If I'm engaged passionately with some self-development, I will come to some stability of myself, some routine, maybe in my lifestyle, or some awareness of balance and stability in the structure of the body. And at this point, I might interject that also I say to a lot of students that there are some people who, they're phenomenal yogis. They're amazing yogis. They don't know the philosophy. They don't practice asana or pranayama. They don't meditate. But what they do is they're very aware of themselves. They're very aware of their posture, their effects, and how they influence people, their breath, when they concentrate, the quality of their concentration. So, as the body is becoming stable, this third result, the next is that the breath will become deep and regular, easy, rhythmic. As the breath becomes deep and rhythmic, the next is that the senses will draw in. Now, if I'm concentrating on my breath itself, my senses will refine to the breath sensitivity. If I'm doing something outwardly engaged, my senses will refine to that. And we can see this connection in a lot of things. When you're concentrating, you tend to breathe less, breathe more carefully, especially if you imagine you're trying to finely control your limbs, your fingers, or deep kind of concentration of the mind. Oftentimes the breath will pause and our sense will heighten on that object in which we are concentrating. So the senses come in, the concentration of the object increases. This leads to what is meditation. And the final result is meditation leads to realization beyond what you thought you were focusing on. Have you ever focused on anything in your life and come to a new realization? And this is where yoga goes. I kind of rushed through the last few steps because they're all kind of really close together anyhow. But just real quick again, stable body, deep, easy breathing, senses withdrawing, concentration enhanced. Meditation means the concentration is just effortless. It's just with that thing. You don't need to tell yourself to focus on that thing. It's just naturally with that thing. And then the realization, the absorption, the connecting to something more beyond what the original concept was. Something that blows the concept away of how you felt what you were doing. So this happens in mundane ways. This happens in extraordinary ways. This happens in physical ways with our activities of our life, but this also happens in completely existential, spiritual, self-realization kind of ways. And the only real difference of those two is that with yoga, we're bringing attention to the process itself, which I'm describing, refining it at every step as much as we can, really putting emphasis and realizing how important the base is. Because if the base is very stable and very aligned, nature will just rocket you there. If you're not aligned with nature and this base, it's pushing you and you're resisting. Now, you're resisting, but it's not working. It's just causing a lot of discomfort. You're still going there. There's no helping that, because everything which you think you are is in nature, and nature is going there. So it's just this point of perception that we believe ourselves to be. And a point of perception, the power of our imagination, the power of our mind, is that we can jump and put ourselves in an illusory kind of way in a position that we're not. And maybe that's the biggest problem that all of us are doing in some way or another. We're putting ourselves into a position that isn't real, that isn't actual. And to be honest, that's most positions. That's most dialogue that we have with ourselves. That's most commentary that we speak internally or outwardly on what life is and what the world is and who I am and who you are and how do we all feel about it. And it's not that all of those positions and commentaries are unuseful as well, because again, they're part of nature. They all contribute to this swelling of awareness, right? That a certain level of awareness can only contain so much, and once you fill that space with all of these different positions, there's no more positions left inside of that space, so you're just going to get popped out of it, basically. So why not start from a position which is seed of yourself, seed of everything, a circle whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. And enjoy this process, enjoy learning to break down your own tendencies of perception, your own excuses or self-talk, which makes it seem we're deserving of doing the wrong doings that we're doing to ourselves and others. There are no others. But if you cause hurt in what seems to be the others, this is the hurt you cause yourself. So this is our process. This is the nature of our lives. And as you can see, I didn't talk anything classic yoga technique, really. I mean, you will come to these realizations on your own. Yoga is natural process, consciousness, and the device of nature. You don't need a teacher. The teacher will help a lot. But given the time, given the lifetimes, the process will take you, and all will be realized in this process. So thanks for watching. Tune in for our next videos. Going to be a lot of different things coming from me pretty soon. We'll be doing fitness. We'll be doing more yoga philosophy. We'll be doing more hatha yoga classes, and also just some like technique breakdown videos. So I look forward to sharing more with you while I'm still here in Rishikesh at the yoga ashram. You can see what we've been working on for the last months here behind me. This is going to be the new temple and practice hall space. And blessings to all of you. I love you and hope you're very well. Keep up your good spirits, your wellness, and practice, at least in this watching and playing around with all of these crazy thoughts that we have. See you next time. How'd that go? That was interesting. Took 20 minutes.